On the icy glaciers of the north, where majestic mountains cast their reflections on the deep blue waters, there is a story whispered through generations. They say that the salmon is not just a fish. It is a spirit, a gift from the gods, a sacred thread that binds the vast ocean to the rivers where people build villages, kindle fires, and sustain life. When the moonlight pours down upon the shimmering streams, one might imagine hearing the crackling sound of scales, the voices of ancestral spirits blending with the eternal migration song of the salmon. And that is where the legend begins. The Tlingit people, one of the ancient tribes along the Alaskan coast, believe that salmon were not only born of water, but also of the breath of the forests and the call of the sea. According to their lore, salmon were once human. Long ago, there was a tribe that lived deep in the forest, but they longed to provide abundant food for all beings. Seeing this, the gods took pity and transformed them into salmon. Their bodies became silver scales, their eyes shone like starlight, and their hearts still beat with human rhythm, now flowing with the river's current. They were given a sacred mission, each year to return to their origin swimming upstream, leaping over rapids to nourish humankind with their flesh and their spirit. For the Tlingit, salmon is thus the embodiment of sacrifice, of the endless cycle of life. Along the northwest Pacific coast, the Haida people also tell their own story. They speak of the salmon village, a world beneath the sea, where salmon live like humans, with homes, hearths, and chiefs. Each year, when the season comes, the salmon families leave their underwater village, swimming inland to offer their bodies to humankind. Yet after being caught and eaten, their souls return to the sea, donning new skins and continuing their cycle. Because of this belief, the Haida and many neighboring tribes are always careful when eating salmon, they never destroy the bones. Instead, they gather them, return them to the water, so that the salmon may be reborn whole. Should people neglect this ritual, the salmon would never return again. In solemn ceremonies, the native tribes often hold the first salmon ceremony. When the very first salmon is caught, it is not eaten right away. Instead, it is placed on an altar, decorated with grass and flowers, and offered with reverence and gratitude. They believe that the salmon's spirit will hear and send word to its kin, assuring them that the people here remain grateful. Then, the salmon will continue to return each year. It is a sacred exchange between humans and fish, between land and sea, a covenant maintained by respect. In the same land, the Coast Salish people tell of the salmon's creation. They believe that in the time of chaos, before the world was fully formed, a man dreamt that the ocean had sent him a gift. Upon waking, he followed the dream to the riverbank, where he encountered a strange being half human, half fish. This was the salmon person. It gave him seeds of life and said, "Let us return to the rivers each year, and we will sustain you." From then on, salmon became the heart of Coast Salish culture, not merely food, but a symbol of the sacred promise between humans and nature. Not only along the coasts, even the Inuit people in the frozen Arctic honored salmon with deep reverence. During the short summer months, when salmon filled the river mouths, the whole community rejoiced, celebrating it as a festival of life. The Inuit believed that Sedna, the sea goddess who rules all marine creatures, created salmon to balance the harshness of their icy land. Salmon was Sedna's gift, ensuring survival through the long, frigid winters. Whenever a salmon was caught, the Inuit would whisper prayers, asking Sedna's forgiveness and blessings, so she would continue her generosity. Strangely, in all these legends, though told in different ways, there is always one shared truth: the salmon is not merely a fish. It is human, it is spirit, it is the gift of rebirth. The salmon's life cycle, returning from the ocean to the rivers, giving birth to new generations, then leaving its body behind was mythologized as the journey of the human soul, to be born, to sacrifice, to be reborn, and to endure forever. There is a beautiful tale often told to children, called The Girl and the Salmon. It is said that a young woman once went to the river and met a mysterious young man. They fell deeply in love. But after one moon cycle, the young man said, "I must return to the sea. I am the salmon man. Yet each year, I will come back." The girl wept as she watched him transform into a salmon and dive into the waters. Each season, she would wait on the riverbank. And indeed, the salmon returned, carrying within them the spirit of her beloved. From then on, salmon came to symbolize faithful love, a devotion that endures distance and never forgets its origin. By the firesides, the elders still tell the young, "Remember, salmon chose to give themselves to us. If we forget gratitude, if we kill without respect or destroy the rivers, then one day the salmon will not return. And when the salmon vanish, so too will our spirits wither." These teachings are not merely ancient tales, but a philosophy of life, a reminder of the deep bond between humans and nature. In traditional art, salmon appears everywhere, carved into the great totem poles of the Haida and Tlingit, painted onto ceremonial masks, etched into riverbank stones. Sometimes salmon are carved with human features, a reminder that they were once our kin. Each carving, each painted line is like a whispered message: salmon are living spirits, never to be seen as mere fish. And so, through story after story, the salmon has become inseparable from the cultural identity of this land. It exists not only on the dining table, but also in imagination, in song, in sacred rituals, and even in dreams. From Alaska to British Columbia, from icy rivers to coastal villages, the story of the salmon's origin has nourished people for countless generations, not only with flesh, but with faith and spiritual meaning. The ancients said that salmon are not only spirits of sacrifice, but also masters of perseverance. No other fish can match their arduous journey upstream. In myth, salmon are often compared to warriors. Each time they return to their birthplace, they must face waterfalls, the claws of bears, and the spears of humans. Yet nothing stops them. They overcome it all, driven by the heart's command, to return to where they were born. To the native peoples, that journey is the very symbol of loyalty to one's roots, of courage, and of an unyielding spirit. In many Tlingit tales, salmon are also seen as guardians of the world's balance. If the salmon do not return, the forest starves, the bears starve, the eagles starve, and humans too will perish. Salmon are the lifeblood of existence. One legend tells that, in a certain year, humans became greedy, taking too many salmon without giving thanks. So the salmon chose not to return. The rivers grew empty, the forests withered, the birds and beasts despaired. Desperate, the people prayed to the gods. Then one elder fell into a dream and met the salmon person. He knelt and begged for forgiveness. The salmon person said, "Remember that my body is to feed you, but my spirit must be respected. If you keep this vow, I will return." From that time on, the people learned balance, learned to give thanks, learned to take only what was needed. And the salmon returned again, shimmering like silver beneath the sun. What is remarkable in the cultures of the Pacific Northwest is that salmon are never regarded as mere creatures without spirit. They are addressed with honorific words, as though greeting a most distinguished guest. In some places, before setting traps, people would whisper a prayer: "Brothers, return to us. We will receive you and honor you." This relationship made salmon the very center of spiritual life, not just ordinary fish, but friends, deities, and the lifeblood of earth and sky. When we sit beneath the ancient totem poles and gaze up at their majestic carvings, we see salmon depicted alongside eagle, bear, and wolf. These are the four most sacred beings to the native peoples. If the eagle represents the sky, the bear the strength of the earth, and the wolf the spirit of community, then the salmon is the embodiment of water, of endless rebirth. Without salmon, the circle would be broken. Thus, salmon stands on equal footing with the spirit beasts, no less sacred. Among the Kwakwaka'wakw people, there is a tale of the salmon woman. She was the daughter of a river god, and each year she transformed into a salmon to lead her kin upstream. But once, she was caught by a hunter. When he realized she was a strange woman, with eyes like water and hair shining like silver scales, he fell in love. They lived happily for a time, bearing children together. Yet when the season of migration returned, she longed for the waters, for the call of her ancestors, and she had to go back. Before leaving, she told her husband, "Teach our children to honor the salmon. Each time they eat it, remind them that it is their mother's blood." From that day on, the Kwakwaka'wakw revered salmon as a mother, as the nurturing source, never to be forgotten. It is fascinating that in many cultures, salmon is linked with wisdom and guiding spirits. The native peoples believe that anyone who eats salmon with respect will gain clarity of mind. Some elders, when preparing to act as shamans, would eat a piece of salmon before a ceremony, considering it a way to open the mind and connect with ancestral spirits. Many prophetic dreams in tradition tell of the salmon spirit appearing, guiding people through the unseen gates of other worlds. But there are also cautionary tales. The Coast Salish tell of a greedy young man who mocked the salmon he caught. That very night, he dreamt he had become a salmon himself, dragged out of the water, flung onto the shore, gasping for breath. He cried out for help, but no one came. Awakening in terror, he changed his ways, and from then on always treated salmon with reverence. This story teaches, if you scorn the salmon, you will taste its pain. It is the law of balance set by nature. During summer festivals, when the first salmon is brought in, fires are lit, drums are beaten, and dances are performed. Children are taught to look into the salmon's eyes and say, "Thank you, brothers, for returning." Such seemingly small rituals have preserved the covenant between humans and salmon for thousands of years. The native peoples needed no written laws, no decrees, only stories and ceremonies. And through them, generation after generation, the belief has endured: salmon are not just fish, they are the soul of the whole community. Storytellers of old often ended with an image full of poetry: when salmon leap up waterfalls, flashing silver into the sky, it is not merely a struggle for survival. It is the eternal hymn of the spirit praising return, praising sacrifice. Each salmon is a warrior, a brother, an immortal soul. And when they return to the river, humanity too feels that sense of homecoming, a reminder that we also have origins, and that we too must live with gratitude and devotion. If in North America the salmon appears as a brotherly spirit of sacrifice, returning to nourish the community, then across the ocean, on the green hills of Ireland and Scotland, salmon takes on another form, a symbol of wisdom and enlightenment. In Celtic mythology, there is a famous legend called the Salmon of Knowledge. The story tells that in the beginning, there was a sacred well known as the Well of Wisdom, where 9 ancient hazel trees grew, dropping into its waters nuts that held the knowledge of the world. In that well lived a salmon, and each time it ate a fallen hazelnut, it absorbed more wisdom, becoming infinitely wise. It was believed that whoever caught the salmon and ate its flesh would gain immense knowledge, able to understand all things in the universe. An old poet named Phenegas devoted his life to waiting beside the river Boyne, hoping to one day catch the sacred salmon. At last, he succeeded. But fate played a twist. The one who cooked the salmon was not Phenegas, but his young apprentice, Fionn mac Cumhaill. While turning the fish, the boy accidentally burned his thumb and instinctively put it in his mouth. In that moment, the salmon's wisdom flowed into Fionn. From then on, he became the legendary hero of Ireland, founder of the famed warrior band Fianna. In many tales, it is said that whenever Fionn pressed that thumb to his lips, the salmon's wisdom would illuminate every mystery. The salmon of knowledge became one of the foundational myths of Celtic culture. It celebrates patience and faith, while portraying salmon as the bridge between humanity and eternal wisdom. It is no coincidence that this fish, renowned for its determined upstream journey, was chosen as a symbol of enlightenment. To the Celts, the quest for knowledge mirrored the salmon's struggle, arduous, full of trials, yet ultimately leading back to the source. In the lands of the north, where glaciers melt into cold seas, salmon also found a place in myth. The ancient Norse told that the trickster god Loki once transformed into a salmon to escape the wrath of the other gods after his misdeeds. He leapt into the river, his body sleek and slippery, evading every grasp. The gods surrounded him, and at last caught him only by the tail. Thus, it is said, the salmon's tail remains slender and tapered to this day. This tale not only explained a feature of the fish, but wove salmon into Norse mythology as a creature of cunning, cleverness, and survival. There are also records that in Scandinavia, salmon symbolized rebirth. Each year, when the long dark winter ended, the salmon returned upstream, bringing new life with them. To the Vikings, this was a sign of good fortune, a promise of fertile summers. They carved images of salmon into objects, using them as protective charms for sea voyages. If in Europe salmon is tied to wisdom and renewal, then in the East, especially Japan, it carries yet another meaning. The Ainu, the indigenous people of Hokkaido, hold a special bond with salmon. For them, salmon is called kamui sep, meaning fish of the gods. They believe that salmon are divine beings in disguise, descending from the heavens to bestow food. Much like the native peoples of North America, the Ainu practiced rituals of returning salmon bones to the rivers, so the spirit of the fish could return to the divine realm and come again in the next season. During festivals, they offered sake, sang, and danced when the first salmon was caught, welcoming the god's return. In Japan, salmon is not as prominent in classical mythology as the carp, koi, yet it appears often in northern folklore, where the fish migrate upstream through rivers. People tell that salmon are the fish who never forget their home. No matter how vast the ocean, each year they return to the same streams. Thus, salmon became a symbol of loyalty and eternal memory. In many folk love stories, the returning salmon is likened to lovers who, though separated, never fail to find their way back to one another. The love of parted lovers. Not only in Japan, but across many lands of Eurasia, people also saw in the salmon a meaning beyond mere physical life. In Siberia, the Event considered salmon the messengers of the river god. Among the Sami of northern Europe, salmon were guardian spirits, helping them survive the harsh winter. Though the interpretations differed, the essence was the same: salmon always symbolized life, return, and the sacred. If we step back and look at the vast canvas from Alaska to Ireland, from Norway to Japan, we will see something wondrous. Wherever it is found, this fish is mythologized in strikingly similar ways. It is a gift, a soul, a wisdom, a faithful love, a rebirth. Perhaps it is precisely the salmon's unique life cycle that led people everywhere to see such profound meaning in it. For salmon never remain in one place. Born in rivers, they grow in the sea, then return to the rivers to spawn and depart. That journey, in the human eye, is proof of the eternal cycle, the unbroken bond between origin and future. In ancient rituals, salmon often appeared as a central figure. In native festivals of North America, the first salmon was placed upon the altar. Among the Ainu, salmon was received as a divine guest, to be welcomed with solemnity. In Ireland, salmon was bound to sacred knowledge. Wherever it appeared, salmon was never just food, it was a bridge between human beings and the universe. Even today, though the world has changed, those stories still resound. In modern art, salmon appears in paintings, sculptures, national emblems. In Alaska, the salmon's image is engraved upon commemorative coins. In Ireland, the tale of the salmon of knowledge remains in school books. In Hokkaido, the Ainu Salmon Festival is still held each year. These legends have not vanished, they continue to live with the heartbeat of humankind. If one sits quietly beside a river, watching salmon hurl themselves upstream, one will understand why they entered myth. For in that instant, one does not merely see a fish. One sees courage, loyalty, sacrifice, and even immortality. The salmon returns unceasingly, is reborn unceasingly, like the memory of humankind, like undying love, like life that never fades. And so, the origin of salmon, through thousands of years of legend, remains an epic belonging both to the sea and to humanity. The origin of salmon, as told in myths across the world, cannot be confined to a simple answer. For each culture, each people, breathed its own soul into this creature. To the Tlingit and Haida, salmon were brothers transformed from human beings. To the Coast Salish, they were a sacred promise between river and sea. To the Celts, they were cosmic wisdom. To the Ainu, they were gods bestowing life. And to all, salmon was the embodiment of the eternal cycle, of the return to the source. Perhaps that is why salmon transcend the limits of nature to become a universal symbol. They not only teach us to live with gratitude but remind us of the bond between memory and future, between origin and journey. When we hear the rivers flow, when we glimpse silver gleaming in the water, it is not merely a school of fish. It is the whisper of ancestors, of gods, of the very soul of humankind retelling an endless story, the story of life, of love, and of the journey home.